Lizardmen in the Empire might be the focus of the Hunter and the Beast, and we'll be showing off more with them soon, but they aren't the only races in the game that received big changes. And with that in mind, Aerocrastic and myself felt like pitting some of those heaviest reworks, Mono-E Elgi, in a matchup between the Wood Elves and the Warriors of Chaos. The King in the Woods, Mel Gibson, Wildwood Rangers, Way Watchers, and Hawkeyes of Drakira have all received significant changes, some of them total reworks, but they aren't the only ones. The Three-Eyed King has come. Archaon the Everchosen stalks land with the Crown of Domination, and his Swords of Chaos have become the forces of nature they should have been from the beginning. Blazing Swords, disgraced movie stars, reworked Regiments of Renown, it's all coming together here on Total War Warhammer 2, and we'll get things kicked off with Orion. Just as scary as he's always been, 500 weapon strength with an Olympic javelin thrower for an arm. He's got Vanguard now, which means he can actually deploy with his Wild Riders for some juicy early game ambushes. Still has that Cloak of Isha for the 44% ward save and regen once his HP drops low, and he's hanging out with some buddies as well. Wood Elves got a lot of changes. Wildwood Rangers, for instance, the glaive-wielding elite that guard the borders of Sithrall, lost some of their melee damage, but are now 100 gold cheaper, putting them at a 900 price point. That is a huge deal against Chaos, Dwarfs, Tomb Kings, and some other races in the game. I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of them now. But the most exciting rework for the Wood Elves came with the Wild Hunters of Kurnous, Orion's elite bodyguard, who no longer have a Guardian aura, but in return got magical attacks and 13 bonus versus large, which means they have 64 melee attack against enemy cav units. They hit like a truck and will be invaluable in matchups against the High Elves, Bretonia, and a few others the Azrai traditionally struggle with quite a bit. Will it be enough to make those even matchups? Maybe. Maybe not, probably not in some instances, but they're a completely different animal and much more potent now. Certainly not going to hurt them. Got a Branch Wraith with Earthblood and Melkoth's Mystify Miasma for those two relatively cheap spells and the Fear, and Hawkeyes of Drakira, ready to snipe some armored stuff in the back. Famous for their Smoke Bomb and Discouraged Contact effect, but Way Watchers and their ROR in general are on the other side of the coin when it comes to balancing. They got hit with the nerf stick a little bit. Less health, less melee defense, 50 more gold now. They're still going to be useful in some matchups, but overall less of an auto-include. Now for Chaos and Archaon the Everchosen, the Swords of Chaos are some of the bigger winners in this patch. They got plus 10 melee attack, 3 more melee defense, more AP, more weapon damage, and lost their bonus versus infantry while getting their price kicked up by 100. And that might sound like a bad thing, that they lost their bonus versus infantry, but it's really not. Chaos does not need help in an infantry fight, and rear charging with Cav is going to kill those anyway. You want their stats overall as high as possible to deal with a multitude of threats, especially in the Cav fight. So now, instead of being hyper-specialized, they've got beastly stats overall and still have Apocalyptic Charge and Guardian Aura for Archie, who has that Crown of Domination to help ward against Dragon and Orion Terror Bombs. Fire Cloak, Flaming Sword of Ruin, and Fireball, pretty standard setup there. And Chaos Knights are the other big winners. Sword and Board variant just got straight up buffed. More weapon damage, very good against Wood Elves because of their shield, high armor, and their high melee defense. So Chaos Warriors, Marauder frontline, nothing too fancy there, but the Swords of Chaos and Chaos Knights with Archaon the Everchosen are without a doubt the biggest threats on the field. And Archaon is one of the strongest duelists in the game. He can mess up Orion in a 1v1 fight, so he will need support from those Wild Hunters of Kurnous if Archie goes in for the duel. That Slayer of Kings is incredibly powerful, but Archie hasn't brought it this game. He's still going to be able to get his weapon damage well over 600 with Flaming Sword of Ruin and his other attack buffs. But he doesn't have to get into melee right away. He can spew fireballs across the beaten zone for a while here, trying to snipe out that Branch Wraith. Fireball did receive a projectile nerf in the most recent patch, with sniping out low armor characters a little bit too easy, maybe a little bit too accurate too, so that was lowered just a teeny bit. Chaos Warriors and Marauders getting scythed apart by those brutal spear throws from Orion, and they're all like, Orion, lay down your weapons! Chaos, come and claim them! And it'll scythe right through the middle of that formation, killing 3 or 4 on the way through. And this is a good way to start out pretty much any battle with Orion if you can. Do a little bit of skirmishing with him, because that missile damage is massive, and the penetration on it is incredibly impressive too. If you can get him on the flank of an enemy formation, especially expensive elite infantry, armored infantry, he can get a ton of value just from chucking those spears. Very satisfying way to get some kills in the early stages of a battle. Chaos Warhounds and Chaos Knights moving up on the flank. They have spotted the Hawkeyes of Drakira, but Wild Riders are in the back and they are ready to receive that charge. Their spears nearby. Gotta be careful though. Those Dryads are probably not gonna have a good time this game. Flaming Sword of Ruin on Chaos Knights will shish kebab them immediately. They really won't have much chance. But take a look at these Hawkeyes of Drakira. First volley, already racking up some very nice damage, and that will continue for as long as we can possibly do so. Tie down those Chaos Knights, fire in with the Hawkeyes of Drakira, and they should be able to get a lot of their value in very early on. Nice rear charge from the Wild Riders surrounding those Chaos Knights. Flaming Sword of Ruin. Those Dryads are going to have an absolutely horrible time. Archaon, Swords of Chaos, everything getting in there. Flaming damage, magical damage. The exact kind of combination Dryads never want to see, and they are melting away. The Warhounds disappearing under that charge from the Wild Hunters of Kurnous, or rather, just the regular Wild Riders, and the Eternal Guard, Wildwood Rangers fighting with some Marauders. A little bit blobbed up there, but should be able to carve their way through pretty quick. Wild Hunters of Kurnous on the other flank, though, caught out some Warhounds backed up by the Wildwood Rangers, and will put them down pretty quick. Orion on the flank here, trying to get some shots in with those spears, and the Hawkeyes of Drakira continuing to fire into those Swords of Chaos and the Chaos Knights, and those are the exact kind of target you want them sniping at. 38 missile damage, huge chunk of that is AP, and the Discouraged Contact effect. If we can make them rout, then run them off the field with Wild Riders, that would be seriously amazing, but maybe a tall order. Fireball, summoned by Archaon, smashing into the flank of those Wildwood Rangers, going right through, penetrating even the Eternal Guard, and the penetration on that magic missile might have been nerfed, but not really feeling it there. Did more than 1,000 damage to those 900 gold elite shock infantry. That's gonna hurt, but the Hawkeyes of Drakira continue to lay into those Swords of Chaos, seriously racking up some amazing precision damage on those guys. Flaming Sword of Ruin goes down again. Very blobby on the Wood Elves left flank, Chaos right, and they're surrounding these Wildwood Rangers and should be able to chunk their way through. Orion getting in there and might start causing some terror. Stack that up with a terror from Orion and the Discouraged Contact effect from the Hawkeyes of Drakira, and you can master out a lot of stuff, but that's one of the reasons why Aerocrastic decided to bring the Crown of Domination for that immune to psych in an AoE. So wherever Orion marches, there will not be terror routes, because Archaon will be counteracting that with his AoE immune to psych. Wild Hunters of Kurnous on the hunt now, looking for infantry to charge into, moving away from these Marauders to line up yet another charge. Wildwood Rangers will pin them in place, and then the Wild Hunters can turn around and go in for that beautiful rear charge. These Wild Riders, though, are going to have to hold back the tides of chaos, and that's going to be very difficult. Another Cascading Fire Cloak going down, and basically they have to get sacrificed here, because otherwise, full charge. Perfectly clear avenue of attack towards those Way Watchers. Only thing between them and death is a smoke bomb to slow down enemy aggression, but the killing blow comes on swift legs. Angry deer people, goring barbarian invaders from behind. Fear sets in, and should be an instantaneous rout. Many more important targets for the bodyguards of Orion to pursue, still alive and kicking on the battlefield. Marauder Cav, they're going for the Way Watchers. They see an opportunity. They're going to try to close into melee. Way Watchers have fired a lot of their shots already, done some good damage to both those Chaos Knight variants as more Chaos Knights charge in to the Wild Hunters of Kurnous. But these Way Watchers, they have but one hope now. Pop that smoke bomb at the right time. They're going to pop it now, and it's only going to catch one unit. And I must say, looking back at the replay now, I'm not sure what happened. The one that got caught was behind the one that didn't. The one in front that just closed into melee did not get the speed debuff whatsoever. I was pretty sure that smoke bomb hits up to 3 targets. It didn't catch the one in front, and they managed to charge in. And so they kept their 90 speed. You saw the other one just stop dead in their tracks almost. 76% slow, but didn't work. Their heads are going to get cut up, and they're going to die. Now, to be fair, they wouldn't have been alive. They wouldn't have been much longer for the world anyway in that kind of circumstance with the Swords of Chaos and Chaos Knights charging in as well. But frustrating. To pop that smoke bomb. Should have been able to get a couple more volleys off and wasn't able to. And Orion is super low in HP. Earthblood to try to keep him topped off. And of course, he does have that Cloak of Isha for the 44% ward save and more regen once he drops below 10% in health. But yeah, Wild Hunters of Kurnous are going to be sticking with him from this point on. They really can't afford to leave him isolated because Archaon will just destroy him in a 1v1 at this point. There's no way Orion will be able to beat him, with Archaon mostly full HP. Nice rear charge. Balance Bar is in favor of Chaos for the moment, but Chaos is very spread out. Archaon is not really in the center of his infantry, and that's leaving them kind of exposed and allowing those Wild Hunters of Kurnous to really start messing them up. And talk about messing them up, Orion, he's very displeased with these Warriors of Chaos, and yeah, you know what, have a spear. Enjoy that. Impaled into the ground below, but he is not even remotely done because the angry deer man is coming for more blood. More Warriors of Chaos piling in, more of them getting jibbed, Earthblood going down again, and you know what, I'm just gonna pick you up and gut you, sir. Enjoy that. Boom! Taking some of the most elite infantry in Warhammer Fantasy Battle and just tossing them aside like they don't even matter, because they don't, because he's Orion, because he's a boss. And so, without Archaon nearby, they will tear a route, and Wild Hunters of Kurnous will feast on them as they run. But more Chaos Knights charging in from the flank. Beautiful charge from Arrow straight into those Wildwood Rangers. And the Wild Hunters of Kurnous finally on target. Something that is large. Rear charge should be enough to finish them off, especially backed up by these Eternal Guard and the rest of these armor-piercing troops. And yeah, it looks like those Chaos Knights will probably go down here. And you might notice it, the Wild Hunters of Kurnous before did not have a special effect on their weapons. Now you can see that they actually have kind of ensorcelled weapons. They have a cool lighting effect on the blades themselves, which looks pretty dope. So Archaon getting in there, Flaming Sword of Ruin cast for the third or fourth time this game, and it has been very impactful because the magical attacks are allowing the Warriors of Chaos to side through that physical resist the Wood Elves are so reliant on. They will not be able to cut through that 44% ward save with magical damage because it's a ward save and not physical resistance. So it looks like Orion should be low enough at this point to start getting some regen there, and that will continue for the rest of the battle. Regen on an Unbreakable Lord, pretty good, and the Chaos Warriors and Eternal Guard going at it. Eternal Guard, some of the best spears and mainline core troops in Warhammer Fantasy, but here they're hitting a bit above their pay grade in terms of what they're expected to fight. They can't take down Archaon the Everchosen from full HP. That ain't gonna work. Swords of Chaos, though, they're hurting. They're calling for their mamas, and they will rout. And if the Wild Hunters can disengage and chase them down, swords should be just off the field completely, and that means no more Guardian Aura for Archaon, which has been a big factor in keeping him so topped off. It's a big reason why he's so full in terms of his health pool. Melkoth Mystifying Miasma going down on the swords to make sure they do not rally and come back and maybe kill one or two more models, but might have been a waste there. Might have been more useful on a little bit more of this infantry or maybe something else. I'm not sure. Maybe save it for the Marauder Horsemen who are still on the field. Over in the corner, chasing off the Hawkeyes of Drakira, making sure they don't return to the fight. But they will be coming back soon. And Ozul, the demon bound within Archaon's blade, flashing, slicing, decapitating. Wildwood Rangers will fall as the Marauder Horsemen come back, get a nice charge in, and a fireball arcing forward, smashing into the front of two of those deer, taking them down. And so what remains is a little bit of a bastion around Orion, the King in the Woods, a Branch Wraith who's mostly full HP, the Wild Hunters of Kurnous who have seen better days in terms of their HP pool, and the Branch Wraith charging forward now against Archaon. Her physical resist will be completely bypassed by the Slayer of Kings, which of course the item hasn't been taken, but he's still using it. And yeah, one slice took her down about a third of her health pool. That hurt. A beautiful spear chuck from Orion will take out some of those Marauder Horsemen who do have ammo left, and they are throwing axe variant, about to fire into the unshielded side of those Eternal Guard and melting them. That killed 10 models probably. Archaon surrounded by the Wild Hunters of Kurnous and their bonus for Slarge and their 64 melee attack. So you will definitely start feeling that with Orion charging in. That's a beautiful surround, but all the Marauder Horsemen see that. They rally to their Three-Eyed King. Complete surround off. Branch Wraith, Orion, Wild Hunters, all surrounded, all beginning to fall. And Archaon, he'll be able to put the nail in the coffin for the Azrai here. It's too much for the Wood Elves to handle. Not much left for the Warriors of Chaos, but just enough to take the battle anyway. And yeah, in a 1v1 duel, even if there was nothing else left, pretty sure Archie would be able to take it. So the Avatar of Kurnous will do what he can, but that will be the end of the game, and Aerocrastic will take it after a brutal and bloody affair, but a really fun and tactical game nonetheless. So I must say, for the Wood Elves, I'm really liking the Wildwood Rangers at 900 gold. I think you're going to see them a lot more against Chaos, against the Dwarfs, against Tomb Kings, and maybe some other factions. Certainly not going to be useful in every single matchup, but at 900 gold with all that AP, that high weapon strength, it's really nice. It's a great way to just fill out your front line and allow you to trade really well, actually, into even stuff like Chosen. I mean, throw those guys into Chosen, and they're going to trade upwards incredibly well. I definitely like the unit a lot. The Hawkeyes of Drakira didn't get a massive amount of kills, but remember, they spent most of the game firing into the Swords of Chaos and Chaos Knights, so they weren't going to get a lot of kills. Probably didn't make their cost back, but they definitely made a relatively large impact on the game. Was a little butthurt about how that smoke bomb worked. I felt like I should have been able to catch both and maybe would have gotten a couple more volleys off there, killed a couple more Marauder Horsemen, but probably wouldn't have been enough to swing the battle anyway. Orion was a stalwart brick in defense and had some very awesome animations to kill off a few of those Chaos Warriors. Wild Hunters of Kurnous were quite amazing that game, and I love the rework for them. Really cool unit now. Swords of Chaos, complete rework on them. Now much more of an overall boss killing unit, and they certainly lived up to their name here. Pretty tough for the Wood Elves to deal with in some circumstances, as are Chaos Knights. And Archaon, well, Archaon is Archaon. He's been one of the best duelists in the game since Slayer of Kings was buffed, and he can kind of mess up the Wood Elves quite a bit with Flaming Sword of Ruin and his casting. Hope you guys enjoyed. GG to Aero.